And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to RBLR Rowdies here on RBLR Sports. My name's Leo, here and always joined by James. James, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. We've had a full weekend of soccer, and we've got a lot more soccer coming up this week.
Definitely a lot of soccer overseas and even in the U.S. itself. But what we didn't have this past weekend at least, was a Rowdies game. And it might have felt weird for a couple fans or many fans. It did feel a little bit weird for me. But overall, there was some soccer to watch.
Yeah, we had a couple of big games in the soccer world. I know that the U.S. men's team played their final warm-up before an actual tournament setting starts, and then it was the UEFA Champions League final. I thought it was a pretty good game. I know that you don't want to go there for the result, so I can understand that. We might be able to just step into the Rowdies arena.
Exactly. Let's just move on from that before I shed tears here live on the air. But before we get started, James, you want to give us a quick standings update for the Rowdies?
That's right. So yeah, we are still in first place in the East, and we're in first place in our division as well. So I just wanted to update everybody on that really quickly. We did that last week, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knew where we were moving into these games. And we do have two games coming up here. The first one is on Wednesday. That is June 2nd, and it starts at 7 p.m. It will be concurrent with the Tampa Bay Rays game, so hopefully people can switch back and forth. But I believe that you have a little bit more information on what's going on with the New York Red Bulls, the Baby Bulls, as we call them.
Baby Bulls, and that's what they will forever be called. They're not the actual New York Red Bulls, the Baby Bulls. More about these Baby Bulls. There are Atlantic Division opponents, so it's going to be not that every game is not important, but this is probably more important than others because we're going to want to show that the Rowdies boss our division. And yeah, like I said, this game's on Wednesday, June 2nd at 7 o'clock p.m. Like I said, the Rays game will be going on. Hopefully people can switch back and forth or just stay on the Rowdies. Come on, Rowdies, we're unbeaten so far.
That's right.
But this is our first away game, and it's also our first midweek game of the season. Usually midweek games you would think players are tired, but we just had a weekend off, so just a longer break for these Rowdies players. A little bit of information where the Rowdies will be playing. They're playing at a turf pitch at a college stadium called Montclair State. New York Red Bulls 2, Baby Bulls, whatever you want to call them. They have 1 win, 3 losses, and 2 ties so far this season. They've also played 2 more games than the Rowdies. And even though they played 2 more games than the Rowdies, they're still in 5th place. Rowdies are sitting very comfortable ahead of them with less games played. And they have not won a home game so far, James. This is something that I found really interesting.
Yeah, it's I've tried to watch as many of the divisional opponents that I can when they're on TV. Unfortunately, there is a lot of overlap with their schedule and other games that I'm trying to catch, so it's a little difficult. I have had a chance to watch a lot of the New York Red Bulls 2 games, and yeah, they've just had some bad luck, and the other thing is, it's not all bad luck in sports. Is maybe there's some problems with putting a full team together that can win at this level. But yeah, it's not been the best going for them at home.
Yeah, and maybe not even the best going so far this season. Although they're mid-table in our division, they only have 1 win to show for it, and they're probably only that high because they've played more games than other teams in the division. So but is these kind of opponents that just strike the top dog at random moments, at any moment, and it just shocks everybody. But I want to ask you, James, I know we had a week and a half off for these Rowdies players. We're coming back off that tough win over the Miami FC, a 2-1 win. We've seen a couple of knocks here and there from Antley and Dos Santos. Do you expect to see any changes to the starting lineup or anything like that?
Yeah, so this is what I'm thinking when we get into this game. Miami was a tough win that we kind of eked out at the end, and it might be the case that we're going to look to try to get some players a little bit more of a break here. So we don't know at this point if Steven Dos Santos is going to come back from his injury. If everybody remembers from the game against Miami, he was limping off when he had to be subbed. And I think that he was even seen on crutches at the end of the game. Not the best sign. It might be the case, and it's a little too soon to bring him back. So I'm thinking at least Jordan Adebayo-Smith is going to get like a good run out here. If Duba is back for this game, it might not be the case that he starts. And if it is the case that he starts, I really doubt that he's going to play much beyond, one half or so. So I'm thinking Jordan Adebayo-Smith is probably going to get a run out. I'm thinking we also might see some more change up in the midfield because Dayon Harris has been sitting there. Jordan Doherty has been sitting there. Jan Ekra is back. And the other thing, I haven't seen anything, like I said, about Steven Dos Santos, but one thing that was on Twitter from the Rowdies official feed is that Luis Fernando, a signing over the offseason that we've been waiting to see, he might be back in full training at this point. I don't know if it's with the full team, so we don't have all the information there, but if he is back and if he's ready to come in, this would be a great game to get him involved against a lesser team.
Definitely, it's a perfect way to get someone like a new signing to boost their confidence, because you're joining a team in which, you didn't start off the right foot because you're coming into the team injured, but this team's 4-0, they're unbeaten, undefeated, and it might be a little tough to just join in and have those high expectations set for you already, as we're, 4 games in the season. So, like I said, it's a good opportunity for him to get to hit the ground running, to be more comfortable playing with his new team. And who knows, maybe we might see a little bit more of him. For those of you who don't remember, the past 3 games, the Rowdies have been having the same lineup. Evan Laurel in goalie. In the back 3 has been Jordan Scarlett, Forrest Lasso, Aaron Guillen. If we have on the wings, on the left wing, we have Leo Fernandez. On the right, Connor Antley. In the middle of the park, as James mentioned, we have Lewis Hilton and Lawrence Wyke. And then as that number 10 position, you could say, we have Zach Steinberger. And up top, Big Duba and Sebastian Guenzati. Like I said, James, if Dos Santos hasn't recovered from that knock, I do expect to see Jordan Adebayo-Smith. And I can't remember if I said this on a recent podcast or if it was before or after talking with you and the producer. I have a feeling that whenever Jordan Adebayo-Smith starts a game, he's gonna score. Because we've seen what he does in the space of 10 minutes he's given whenever he makes cameos or gets subbed down for Dos Santos or Guenzati later in the game. Although he doesn't put the chances away, he shows that he could get into really good positions in a short amount of time. So if he could do that over, let's say, just an hour, at 60 minutes, just imagine how many goals he could score. He has to score at least one. So that's why I say that I believe whenever Adebayo-Smith starts, he'll get a goal.
Yeah, I actually totally agree with that. I was going to say that his XG, his expected goals right now, has got to be pretty high for the amount of time that he's played. It's unfortunate right now, the conversion rate of those expected goals, but as you said, the more time you get, the more chances you get. And the more chances you get, the more likely you're going to have at least one of those get in the back of the net. So I'm thinking that he's going to be able to do something here if he gets a good run out. And this is the perfect time to do so. The New York Red Bulls 2 team is just not... This season, they're not performing at this level. They have in the past, but we'll get into more of what they look like in a little bit. It's right now more so how the Rowdies could prepare for this game. And I think that Jordan Adebayo-Smith has a great chance in front of him to try to get more conversions when he's in the box. And then, when you get that going and your confidence gets up, that's when you can start pushing other players to say that I'm ready to start. I'm ready to get in there.
Definitely. And I want to ask you, James, really quick. Let's assume that all players are fit. Would you think this would be a good game to tinker the lineup a little bit, give players more minutes, put them on a starting lineup, or would you want to keep the same winning formation that's been going on for basically ever since the season started?
I would use this, this is just me. I don't know what Neil Collins, I don't know what his strategy is like. We haven't had a press conference to go off of so far, but what I would do personally is, like I said, New York Red Bulls, they're not doing so well. Let's try and get some players some more playing time. Let's look at getting Dayon Harris a start here. He's been looking to come off the bench recently, and I'd rather see him get a start at the left or right wingback spot, and maybe give Connor Antley a little bit more of a rest. Maybe give Leo a little bit more of a rest on the left wing because he was just coming back from an injury to start the season. So that's an opportunity. I would like to see possibly Jordan Doherty here, and I'd like to see him also for strategic reasons. That's something that we will get into a little bit more with the Red Bulls lineup, but I think that the other thing is Zach Steinberger might be somebody else who has run his socks off all season. Let's give him a little bit of a rest while Doherty steps in for either Wyke or Lewis Hilton. More and more players who have been running all game, every game so far. That's probably what I would guess to see here. But, Neil Collins is not going to give anything away, certainly. He holds his cards close to the chest.
I agree with you about with everything you said, and especially with Deion Harris. As I said with Adebayo Smith, he makes the most when he gets put on. You could make the same argument for Deion Harris. The way he just spreads that right-handed side when he gets subbed in. He could take on players, put dangerous crosses in the box. And like I said with Adebayo Smith, if you give him a long period of time, he's going to show why you signed this player for this season. So I'm excited for him. Hopefully he makes an appearance or even gets joins the starting lineup. I do agree with you. We do need to give players rest, like Lewis Hilton, Lawrence Wyke, and Zach Steinberger. Maybe new signing Matt Serbell might come in and replace Dalgard, give Fernandez or Antley a rest. Especially, he was with the team last season, so I could tell he's itching to get back on the field to get to, win back his starting role that he had last season. But like I said, we're not Neil Collins, so we don't know what's going on in his mind.
Yeah, unfortunately. I would love to have a little bit more information at this point, but that is the nature of the game when you are just reporting on it.
Exactly. And how do you, I want to ask you next, James, how would the Rowdies, do you think, how do you think they'll perform away from home?
So right now, what I'm looking at for the New York Red Bulls 2 is a team that is a kind of hodgepodge of players with regard to how they are trying to build a team. So they have a lot of players who are at the stage in their career where they're literally coming out of the New York Red Bulls Academy. These are 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds. In fact, they have two 15-year-olds that have been playing spot minutes, here and there off the bench this season. So it's kind of difficult to say that the New York Red Bulls are going to beat or set the world on fire with this team at this level. They've got all of those players, and then they've got some players from their first team who might be, not getting all the minutes in the world in their MLS games, or if they're just coming back from an injury. Right now, they have had a very consistent lineup, and I think that this is something that the Rowdies will be able to play off of very well, and I'm expecting that they should be able to win this game, certainly. The defense that we have seen from the New York Red Bulls, they try to keep the ball on the ground a little too much, if you ask me, because it doesn't appear from everything that I've seen that they have the personnel to be able to do that. They have a couple players who have been in the back for each of these games, and then they have two players who have sat in front of them, Michael Knapp and Daniel Edelman. Those are their two central midfielders who sit in front of the defense, and then they try and create moving forward. And it's just the case that I don't see Daniel Edelman or Michael Knapp as being capable of playing high enough at this level to influence a game, especially when the Rowdies are doing so well on their side. We are leading the league, we are leading our division. It's going to be very difficult for them to try to set any tempo for the Red Bulls midfield, and that's really that's really what I see happening in the midfield when they have the ball. Now, the one thing that I would say we have to look out for, the New York Red Bulls second team, much like their first team, is a very quick on the counter team. They love to try and break on the counter, and they have two fast forwards up top, Rold Mitchell and Omar Sow. These are two guys who love to play right on the shoulder of the defenders that are marking them, and then try to break through on a run, that would be either out and then cut inside or just over their shoulder if they can, get some space in between the last line of the defense and our goal. So that's what I'm expecting them to try to look for as the Red Bulls try to move the ball up the field. They're just going to look for possibly some long balls for those two to chase down, and then get some wingers involved to help them out. But I don't see that being the biggest ask for the Rowdies to defend. If they play a ball over the top, we've got three very capable defenders when it comes to getting their head to a ball and blocking a pass through. And the other thing is that they're very good on the mark. These players will stick to their man, Jordan Scarlett, Forrest Lasso, and Aaron Guillen. They are very good at that, and I don't see them just getting lost very frequently in any of the games that we've played so far. The likelihood that Omar Sow and Rold Mitchell are going to do that it's pretty low for me. And then the Red Bulls also have one player that's been consistent up top, or consistently playing up top. That's Jake LaCava. And if I'm being perfectly honest with this, I think that he's just another player that, you know, he might not be destined for the highest level in this game. And I hate to trash talk any of these players because they're all so young. You know, it's a bunch of 20-year-olds and, like I said, even younger. But Jake LaCava is a player who, when the ball is at his feet, he's either going to want to try and get a quick pass off or a quick shot, because if he dribbles it, he's going to lose it. He dribbles himself out of the game at times. So, it's going to be either on the quick break that the Rowdies have to keep an eye out for those two fast players up top, or if they can't really generate anything that way, I'm not entirely sure how the Red Bulls are going to score unless, you know, they try and get something off a set piece, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Based off what you say, you know, you kind of have to feel sorry for the Baby Bulls, you know, because they're a young team coming up against a Rowdies team that's just firing on all cylinders. And I highly doubt the Rowdies, these Rowdies players in their minds are going to be like, you know what, they're kids, let's take it easy on them. They're going to want to wreak havoc on this team to show their dominance in the division. So I do feel kind of bad, you know, for, like I said, these 20-year-olds and even younger, these teenagers playing against the Rowdies. One thing I would say, though, is that recently Rowdies had a player the Red Bulls, too. They had a player named last season called, his name was Caden Clark, and now he's the future star for not just the Red Bulls right now, but also, you know, the national team and the future soccer star. Have you seen anything of that from the games you watch from the Red Bulls, James?
Any superstars in the making? I can't say that I have at this point. Mm-hmm. You know, they are. It's just been a struggle, unfortunately, for them. Yeah. But the other thing about players who are 20 years old or younger, again, it's just it's hard to tell at this age. You know, there are some people who set the world on fire when they're 16 years old or 17 years old. Lionel Messi is one of those, and I definitely don't see any Lionel Messis on this team. But are there players who can, you know, play at a higher level in America? Sure. Are there players who are going to be really good even at the USL Championship level with the Rowdies? Absolutely. And, you know, maybe in a couple of years we'll be able to pick this team apart for some players who aren't ready to move on to the MLS level, but are ready to actually start to try to win stuff at the USL Championship level. I know that there were a couple of players last season that I thought that the Rowdies could have signed, and, you know, Evan Loro is actually one of those previous Red Bulls players. He came through the system, and I think he played 1 year or two with the Red Bulls too, and since we've signed him, and look at how well he's done. You know, it's something that they could definitely win in the long run, but it's not something that I see them being able to do right now, any of these players. Maybe they've got a goalkeeper or two, but it's not the biggest thing that I think this team has going for it.
All right, understood. Well, you know, based on what you said, I want to talk about how, you know, maybe the Baby Bulls don't have these players to play out from the back, and when you do that against a Rowdies team who's just been scoring so many goals, they are going to punish you, you know. And although this team maybe relies on counterattacking, we kind of seen how Miami got the better of that from Rowdies the last time against Miami and Tampa Bay. But I feel like Aaron Guillen, Forrest Lasso, and Jordan Scarlett would have learned their lesson. And I know I said in the last podcast that teams could look at the Miami game and see a blueprint to defeat the Rowdies. I just think the players from New York Red Bulls too don't really have the quality to follow that blueprint or to really put any pressure on these defenders for the Rowdies to, you know, cause a lot of problems. So, you know, like I said, based on what you said, it just looks like this game is built for the Rowdies to win.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. The big thing that Miami did in their game was when they were pressing, they had a very strong midfield to do it. Speedy Williams is a player in Miami's midfield. Bolu Akinyote is a player. Actually, both of them from the New York Red Bulls too, but obviously they're not there anymore. They were very good at making the Rowdies, or at disrupting the Rowdies' play when they were trying to move forward. And I think that the issue with this team is that Daniel Edelman and Michael Knapp, the two New York Red Bulls players that are currently in their midfield, are just not up to par with Speedy Williams or Bolu Akinyode. We're going to see players who are trying to put on that pressure, probably. You're going to see players who attempt to make those plays, but I don't see that they're going to be able to cover all the ground that they need to. They just probably don't have the soccer smarts at this point in their careers to be able to do so, if not the, maybe even a lack of athleticism.
Definitely. So with all that being said, James, I think, where this next question is going to lead to. So what are your predictions for the midweek game against New York Red Bulls 2?
All right, so we've talked obviously about where this is going, and I think that it's definitely going to be a Rowdies win. My only issue with that is that this is the first game away from home, and, you're going to have to win road games to win a season, obviously. So I think that this is going to be a good practice session for them, so to speak, but it's, unfamiliar conditions. They're going to be playing on turf. It's going to be harder. I just see them coming away with this, maybe not as strong as we like, but it'll be a good springboard into the next game, and we'll talk about that next. I see this game though as a 2-0 win from where I'm sitting. What about you? What are you predicting from everything we've talked about?
With the counting game, like you said, it's a turf field. Rowdies playing away. I think we're going to see in this game how much of an impact the fans are. You talk about home advantage for teams. The Rowdies certainly had that, in their opening 4 home games. But now we're going to see the difference it makes. But with the quality the Rowdies have versus not so much against in that Red Bulls team, I think the Rowdies are going to pull. I feel like they're going to cause a lot of damage to these teenagers and these very, very young players early in their career. And if we do see some changes, we still have players who have been starting the whole season to help these new guys who are coming in the lineup. So with all that being said, I'm gonna go for a 3-0 win again for the Rowdies. I'm just sticking to that lucky 3-0, man.
It has worked for both of us so far this season, so it's gonna come back and bite either you or me at some point. And I'm really hoping it's not me, but I guess we'll see.
Definitely.
With all of that said, then we have another game and another chance for a 3-0 win, but we'll get to our predictions later. We have a game on Saturday coming up. It is June 5th at 7 p.m., and we are away again, this time to Charlotte. And, Leo, you have some information about how Charlotte are doing as well.
Yeah, so Charlotte, again, division opponents, the 4th this time, and 2 wins from 4 games. They lost to Miami this past weekend, but now they host us. And earlier in the season, they also beat Charleston. So, from this team, you kind of see an up and down season so far. It's like they win one, they lose one. They win one, they lose one. So you can't really, you don't really know what to expect from them. But James, you have a little bit more information from some players to watch.
Yeah, exactly what you said, actually, is you just don't really know what to expect with this team so far. They have been very streaky and up and down. So they have a bit of, they have a lineup that has been kind of unchanged, but the issue is they brought in a lot of players from after the season officially started. They have signed Dane Kelly, a Jamaican player who was with them the last couple of seasons, and Dane Kelly is a perennial goal scorer in this league. He has been leading the league, I think, the last couple of years, and then he might have won a Golden Boot 1 or 2 times in there. The Golden Boot is awarded to the player who has won the, or has scored the most goals. And yeah, Dane Kelly has definitely been right around there. So him being back is going to be a bit of a problem for our defense, whether or not it's something that they can handle. They have also signed a player, Jordan Bender, from Orlando City on loan. So he's a youth player for Orlando City. He's one of those players that, similar to the Red Bulls team, came through the academy, and they were trying to incorporate him into the Orlando City team. He's made a couple of appearances, but I guess he's not quite at that level that their coach wants, so he is here on loan in Charlotte. And then they have, mostly the same players from when we talked about them for the first game of the season. Marcelo Palomino is another player on loan from MLS, from Houston, in fact, and he's been doing pretty well so far. They have Brant Bronico on loan from the Charlotte team that is supposed to start in MLS. That will be next year, but right now he's in Charlotte at the USL Championship level. So, yeah, there are a couple of players that we're going to have to keep our eye on. Definitely Palomino, I would say. They have Tati Sabeja from Argentina. He's going to be an interesting player up top. And then, like I said, that Dane Kelly, he's going to be very good. They had a couple more players here and there who have shifted in and out of the lineup. Christian Dean was someone we highlighted in our first game preview episode. He is a former MLS player, too. He was unable to make it at that level, mostly due to injuries, which is unfortunate for him. But ultimately, it's probably pretty good for Charlotte, because when you get to this level from MLS, it means that you're going to be pretty good. And he's coming back from a red card suspension specifically for our game this Saturday. He's going to be pretty good in the back, and we're going to have to, work hard to get past him. With all of that said, I don't have the best take on, how we can beat this Charlotte team, because it's just what you said. It's been very difficult to nail them down as a team that plays this way or that way, or, what their strengths and weaknesses are, based on a totally crazy set of results. You beat Charleston, who aren't having the best team, or the best season for their team. They did much better with pretty much the same roster last year. But to go and beat Charleston, that means you got to be pretty good. And then they turn around and lose to Miami. Miami, as we saw in the game against the Rowdies, they are upping their game steadily as the season goes on. But we were obviously able to beat them, so I'm hoping that gives us a good sign for the future. It just also worries me that they are, possibly coming off of that, and with this up and down set of games they've had, maybe this is going to be one of their up games, Yeah,
and from my experience from watching soccer, whether it's Europe or here, let's just go to Premier League. Teams like Charlotte, who are having an up and down season, tend to be middle table in the Premier League, and those up and down teams tend to be the big four, big six, and that's where you feel confident. But again, this team, it's almost as if they have really nothing to lose. So they're just going to want to go all out on the Rowdies or play smart against the Rowdies. And it might make it confusing for these Rowdies players as well. It's certainly a little bit challenging for Neil Collins. How do I approach this game? How do I approach a team that has been good sometimes, but also has been bad sometimes? So, like you said, it's going to be tough to see how this is going to go. It's going to be tough to see how Rowdies are going to approach this game. Maybe if they were playing home, might be a little bit easier, certainly because you got home field advantage. You have fans behind your back. They're going to back you from the first whistle to the last whistle. But because it's away, because this team, like we said, has been up and down, we don't really know what to expect from this team, which kind of makes it, for us, not sure what to expect from the Rowdies, how they're going to approach this game.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's just gonna be hard to tell, and I hope that Neil has a bit better of a plan in mind than I do, because my plan is nothing right now. But he's obviously a lot smarter at this game than I am. So with that out of the way, I think that we might as well just move into our predictions. There's no point in continuing to break down what we can't really break down. Tell me, Leo, is this going to be one of the trap games that you see in this season, or is this going to be one where the Rowdies come out on top?
It's difficult to predict two games in the same week. Usually we'll see what happens against Red Bulls, two of them. We'll take what we see from there and base it off, for prediction against Charlotte, especially if the lineup changes on Wednesday.
Exactly.
But so what I'm thinking is that they're going to change the lineup against Red Bulls because they're a weaker team. That are going to put a full lineup against Charlotte. Go back to their full strength. With that being said, it's just really confusing, but I'm going to have to go with a gritty and a hard-fought 1-0 win for the Rowdies.
Okay, I like that. I mean, a 1-0 win would be good, because obviously you'd walk away with 3 points. And, I was kind of thinking the same thing like you were when it comes to the lineups. So if they, change their lineup a bunch for the Red Bulls game, it's probably going to be the case that they go back to the players who have been starting so far this season for the game against Charlotte. And I would imagine that that's the case. Now, can they do that, and can they keep the same continuity that they've had so far this season? That's my question. Unfortunately, I see this as being one of those weird games. It's going to be, a very weird schedule to be traveling to New York probably today, I would imagine. And then they will be back flying down to Charlotte before coming home again this weekend. I think that it's going to be very difficult to get that turnover in a couple of days and keep the same, feeling amongst the team as you try to learn whatever new patterns of play you're going to have to do specific to each new setup that you have between the Red Bulls and Charlotte. I think that unfortunately I'm going to have to say this is probably a 1-0 loss for the Rowdies to Charlotte. That is my prediction, at least.
Yeah, it's fine. I want to know that these are only predictions. We don't hate the Rowdies, so don't go and unfollow James. It's just a prediction. But I completely understand. We both had 1-0 score lines, which just shows that probably us and most Rowdies fans don't really know what to expect. Obviously we hope for the best, but in reality, in this scenario, especially because we don't really know what's going to happen against Red Bulls, so that makes it even harder to predict against Charlotte. So any one of us could be right and any one of us could be wrong, but what we do know is that it's going to be hard to predict this game.
Yeah, exactly. And these are 2 away games, so right now we're going to try and get into how you might be able to watch these. Leo, you've got some information with where people could possibly see these?
Yeah, so for those who are in the Tampa or St. Pete area, and I know with all the hype the Rowdies are having right now, you might not want to watch these games alone. You might want to watch it with fellow Rowdies fans or people who just enjoy local sports in the Tampa area. You can head to Ralph's Mob's Away Day watch parties. Now, these are available at the Old Northeast Tavern. And this is if you're listening and want to write down the address, I'll say it twice for you. It's 201 7th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33701. Again, 201 7th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 3301. And it's Skyways Casuals Away Game Pub. And another place you can watch it, the Skyways Casuals Away Game Pub. And also in the Shamrock Pub. And that's located on Ringling Boulevard in downtown Sarasota. So you have multiple pubs to watch this game with fellow Rowdies fans and to enjoy the game, because obviously the Rowdies are away from home, and last time I checked, Al Lang Stadium is not open for watch parties, which I think would be a really cool idea. Think about it, James. If there were away games and Al Lang Stadium allows fans to watch games on the big screen, people could come in and sit on the pitch and just watch on the big TV and, feel, have a home game that's away, if that kind of makes sense.
I have spent a lot of time just in my personal life, probably while I'm bored and supposed to be working actually at my desk, just thinking about what you could do with stadiums outside of hosting, your home games. And I've always thought that there are obviously bars within stadiums that serve alcohol, and this is a place where you could gather. Certainly, if you don't want to just leave the bars open during the week, you could at least host away game watch parties. I thought that was a good idea always. I don't know who I can speak to at the Rowdies. Maybe somebody can figure or point me in the right direction. But yeah, I think that would be cool someday. The other thing that I would say, so we got that information from Ralph's Mob and Skyway Casuals. Those are 2 fan groups that support the Rowdies, and that's actually how we ended up getting in touch to form this podcast, was through the Ralph's Mob group chat. So I would suggest everybody check that out on Twitter. You can find them at Ralph's Mob on Twitter, and you can find the Skyway Casuals at Skyway Casuals. So yeah, please check them out. They're, good organizations in and of themselves. They've actually got a bunch of charity drives going on right now that I would recommend you look into anyway. But it's just really cool that they do everything that they do, and the fact that they are trying to set these up so that fans have some sort of home even when the Rowdies are away. I really value that personally. I think that's super cool of them, and I would love for more people to get involved. Please look them up if you hear this, and give them a shout.
Definitely, yeah. It's always important to join these big fan groups from the Rowdies, because, like you said, it feels like a home game, even though we're playing away, it still feels like you're at home, and you get to watch it with fellow fans, and it just brings that same feeling as if you're watching it, at Al Lang Stadium. And with all that being said, is there anything you want to say, James, before we go?
Well, the other thing, they will definitely tell you where they're watching the game. If for some reason the information that we have is either wrong or it changes, you will find the information about where they're going to be watching the game in the future at Ralph's Mob and at Skyway Casuals, again on Twitter. Look them up. Good groups of people.
Definitely. Very good groups of people. And yeah, so that's how you can watch it with other people. If you want to watch on TV, I believe these games are available on ESPN Plus. I don't know if...
That's right.
They are. Yeah, it's a fairly cheap subscriptions. And if you don't want to get a subscription, I'm pretty sure these pubs will have it available there for you. And you can enjoy it with good fans, good friends, and just have an overall good time. Because we know it's probably going to be a long week for Rowdies fans. We won't be together at Al Lang Stadium, but soon we will after these 2 road games. And yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of RBLR Rowdies here on RBLR Sports. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at RBLR Sports. And also make sure to like and subscribe to our podcasts. They're available on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and other major podcast platforms, you name it. And as always, thank you, listeners, for your time. Come on, you Rowdies. Let's go, Rowdies.
Let's go, Rowdies. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.